And I don't know how to turn it off. It's a good thing I'm not playing for data.
Last time you were interested in the content. So how do you get people in the mix excited about
you gotta stick with things that would
history?
That's going to drop when I'm going to get there with the flies, so they got still have them printed. And they just bill that directly to us. They bill that directly to business. Right. You will.
Sure, it comes to me. There's a lot of times it doesn't. And then they send me a betting notice.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Welcome. Wow. Can we stuff any more people in this room? It's already 90 degrees. My name is John Dockery. I'm the president of the Photographic Historical Society of New England. Welcome. This is a great turnout. I know a lot of you people are from Stereo New England. You're here today. You're representing your club very, very nicely. Thank you for coming. Welcome to our little humble abode. There's another guy I need to talk to. How you doing? We got a presentation to start off, but before we do that, we have something called show and tell, which is something we do. And we have a show and tell master, Al Hami. Al, where are you? There he is. Here. And I see we have a rather amazing show and tell item that I see already. So I can't wait to see what people have got. Al?
Okay. Yes.
Hey Al, this isn't technically my show and tell, but
That's all right.
we got an email from Steve Stoic. Many of you may know him out in the San Francisco area, I guess. He noticed what the topic was for the meeting today, and he has parts of an Anthony graphoscope he wants to restore, the large lens version, and he's interested in finding out if anybody has one who could send him photographs and dimensions of some parts of the graphoscope for him to look at. It's a stereo viewer. It was kind of a, if I remember, a kind of folding thing. Lens board came up and you put the card in it.
Also has a large lens on it.
It has your one big eye lens
Yeah.
for looking at non-stereo things, and then a pair of stereo. So the ones I've seen anyway. So if anybody's got a graphoscope, or can get him a good image of an Anthony large size one, he could get dimensions off of it, that would be great. See me if you can provide that. And Dick, maybe you could present this at the next stereo meeting and see if anybody has some information for it.
I want to talk about a book that came out about a year ago and still in print, Science for the Curious Photographer. It's written by someone who just retired from a university. I think he was a scientist, but an avid photographer, and always takes the point of view that he wants to know how the things work, film and digital. It's not a highly technical book, but if you're afraid of an equation, you may not want to look at it. And I don't think anyone here is really afraid. But everything like lenses, what's the most best lens that can be designed with current state of knowledge? How complicated does a lens have to be? And the different answers for film and for digital. And just a wonderful mixture. I found it fascinating. A lot of things I always think about. Why does it work? Without going into a scholarly treatise. And it's called Science for the Curious Photographer by Charles Johnson, Jr. I'll leave it up here for people to look at.
Particularly in Japan, they're now being made in China as well. The history of these is rather unique. How many of you people know what sea rations are? Yeah, okay, well, these are the Japanese at the end of the Second War obviously had very little resources, so they recycled sea ration cans and they built hit cameras. Actually, they're just sheet metal stampings. They're extremely cheaply made. They do, in fact, function. And when they do function, they function using this size spool of film. This is an actual roll of hit film. Now, when you get it developed, let me tell you, you did pretty good just getting it developed. Right off the bat, I mean, you're well ahead of the curve now, my friend. What do you... Here we go.
Oh, man.
Now, this is a camera. It was made by Konica. Originally, it was made by Simmons, and it was called the Simmons Omega. And this is a rehash, a revisit to the Simmons Omega. This is the Rapid 200. Now, the camera all the way around is unique. It's unique, first of all, by virtue of the fact that to operate this camera, you have to pull this crank out and slide it back in. The trigger mechanism is over here, and of course you can hear it, it's working. It had a unique back, and just even to start off the unique back, getting to the clasp to open the back required a little bit of doing. And we open the back, hopefully it doesn't fall off on the floor, and here we can get a little bit of a view of the actual operating mechanism for the camera. Now, this...
Talking about different things, I'm going to try to be brief. My wife has a hair appointment in Boston. I grabbed the 4x10, it's a Chamonix 4x10 camera, 4 inches by 10 inches. I want to try run there and got lucky. There was some kind of ceremony honoring soldiers or something like that. I got the camera, tried to get as fast as possible. And the story, believe it or not, the main story is the fact that I did a couple of things bad there, but still you got lucky because you had the camera at the right time. Bring more than one negative. I happen to have both sides of the holder with negative. I did something really bad with one, and fortunately the other child got lucky and got it. Second, if you...
I'm going to speak to that in a second, but I want to tell you that in the big room where they're throwing rifles and dancing the music, right now in April 15th, 14th and 15th, we're going to have Photographica, the 76 show. I think most of you people know what that is, right? Yes.
Yes.
So please come down here, there's information. If you'd like to be a dealer at Photographica, we have about 10 tables left. Please come and see me, I have some forms for you. And we also have a date for our fall show in September. Also, there's something else going on in April too, isn't it, John?
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Hi, I'm John Latoes, the program chairman or assistant program chairman for PHSNE. And our April meeting is going to be a little bit different. Point one, it's not going to be here. It's going to be at the Currier Art Museum in Manchester, New Hampshire. Now, the timing of the meeting is going to be the same. Our board meeting at 11, our open meeting at or at 1 and such like that. But what PHSNE will be doing will be paying your admission to the Courier when you go. So you'll get more details you'll see more details when the snapshot comes out. But when you can find directions to get to the Courier on the website for the Currier Museum of Art. But when you go up there, please go to the Birch Street entrance. We'll have one of our PHSNE staff people at a desk with the membership rolls and stuff like that, waiting for you to come in. So if you have a individual membership, free ticket for you, family membership, free ticket for you and yours. And it's a terrific museum. We'll be holding the meeting in the yellow classroom at the museum, and it'll be a full board meeting.
Any corny jokes? We've taken enough of your time. Let's get on with the presentation. Does anybody need glasses? Okay, would you pass these out to the folks that need glasses? Marshall needs some as well. George and Bernard, please come up. Are you ready? Well, you're already up.
Yeah, we're all set.
You all set?
Yeah, so I'm George Mutter, and it's Bernard Fishman, and we have a two-part program for you this afternoon. Bernard and I are collectors of historical stereo views. We have 25,000 and growing, 25,000 this week, stereo views. And this has been a very solitary thing for each of us for a long time. Mainly because to see them, you've got to literally hood yourself in a viewer, and you can't really share them with other people unless they're digitized, which now is possible. So Bernard and I have started to digitize our 25,000 stereo views. And what this has allowed us to do is to prepare a variety of formats of presentations because our goal or our strategy is to bring the images to interested audiences. We have some technical limitations. We can't for example, go to the Museum of Fine Arts and do a polarized 3D projection because they don't have the equipment. But we did the first 3D historical photograph presentation at the Museum of Fine Arts in the fall using something very much like what you'll see today. So we do anaglyphs. And the anaglyphs work fairly well with black and white images. As you know, they're not so good with color. And we're both looking forward to technical improvements. We can walk into any theater and do this in 3D. So this is life in 4 dimensions, meaning space and time. And these images go back to the 1850s. I think between the two of us we have maybe 600 glass stereo views, full-size glass stereo views. The majority are in paper. Of course, many of the earlier ones are in glass, but there's paper. Of course, we all can understand classical beauty. This actually was quite a famous statue in the 1870s. Was illustrated in stereo views. And the medium of photography and three-dimensional photography lent itself to interesting perspectives, which had its own appeal. Here you see a dancer about 1890 or so in Paris, in her dressing room. And this lady is Swiss, about 1870, in her special costume. Indulgent. And so now I'm going to turn you over to Bernard Fishman, who's going to take us up the Nile under glass.
Thank you, George. George and I have been working on all of this for about 3 years, and it's been a fascinating journey in itself. We met at a photo show, and out of this came this whole project of digitization, and I want to thank George very much for so much about this, but he provides all of the technical know-how, and I'm very grateful for that. As George mentioned, you're going to see glass stereo views, diapositive transparencies of Egypt taken in the 1850s and 60s. There might have been about 500 different subjects produced by 3 commercial photographers between about 1857 and 1880. So only 500 ever produced, and we have maybe 20-25% of that number in our collection. So this is something that actually has never been seen before, and certainly not in this kind of presentation.
Oh, the other way.
The other way.
Just go to the other button.
The other way.
Again. There you go.
Okay. This is not Egypt, but it might fool you. It's to remind us that Egypt was very interesting to Europeans in the 1850s. George mentioned and showed you a picture, a stereo view, of the reconstructed London exhibition, the Crystal Palace at Sydenham in London. That was done in 1854. This image was taken of the Egyptian section about 1857, probably by Philip Delamotte, who documented the construction, the reconstruction of the Crystal Palace. Those two figures are almost life-size versions of Ramesses II, who reigned about 1300 BC, and made 4 of these images out of the living rock at his temple at Abu Simbel near the Second Cataract in Egypt. It was part of a large display of Egyptian architectural presentations, and was very fascinating. It was very, the intent of it was to be educational, but it came on the heels of other interest in Egypt, publications, and it helped spur, along with other things, the first commercial photographic venture in Egypt, made by someone named Francis Frith, an Englishman who had made a fortune in the grocery business, and undertook in the 1850s 3 different photographic missions to Egypt and to the Holy Land. This is a glass view of his from his 1858 journey. It shows one of his river boats, of which he had several, accompanying him up the Nile. All of these images were taken under very difficult circumstances of dirt and heat. And of course, there was no commercial opportunity to, at that time, acquire plates that had already been prepared, so they all had to be prepared on site. They were all using the collodion wet plate technology, which was relatively new at the time. And his achievement was made possible in part because he was able to carry the equipment in these riverboats. Normally, of course, the journey would begin in the north, usually through Alexandria. Now, all of the views that I'm showing you now were taken in the late 1850s, and I've tried to group them that way. These are the tombs of the Mamluk rulers of Egypt in the Middle Ages outside of Cairo. All of them taken very carefully composed. They are intended to suggest the romance, the collapse, the decay, the romantic decay of the Orient. They've all been very carefully composed to show that.
These people have any way of wanting to get something in touch with you? You have business cards up at the front?
Yes, we have.
Very good.
We have these cards.
So if there's something you'd like to share, for them to copy, whatever. I'd also like to give you a plaque for your presentation today.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
We are a photography group, so we take one photograph per meeting at least. So we do this. Oh, I'm sorry. That's
all right.
Same thing.
You know, think of us as a stereo pair.
Yeah.